And welcome back to the show. You are listening to Coworker Radio. Catherine Raymock along with Jane Walker Wood, a show all about co-working and the modern entrepreneur. And we've got a great one in studio with us right now. A principal at a company called Pond Valley is going to be talking with us about Michael Smith invests in positive impact companies, as Jane was saying, businesses solving problems in the environment, water, food, shelter, education, well-being. He's had a 20-year career and been active as an investor and advisor to 30 companies and funds, and is also, well, at least was, I'm not sure if he's still doing it, DJ extraordinaire. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it is so good to have you with us, Michael. And I know the question on everybody's mouth, since you are an investor, is what do you look for in one of those plans that come across your desk? I'm sure you get hundreds.
Yeah,
thousands.
That's such a good question. I mean, I think today as an entrepreneur, you can address so many different issues and challenges, and companies can scale with speed that we've never seen before. So it really is about what's the underlying mission first, and understanding why an entrepreneur is doing something. It's challenging launching a new business. Most businesses fail. So what is the undying reason why an entrepreneur is doing something? That's the first thing I always look for.
And, that brought to mind of the socially conscious model is fairly new. I remember when it started in sort of the finance world some years ago. But you have to be sincere about it, right? I mean,
Totally.
You don't do it just so you think you're going to make a profit at it. And How do you tell the difference when someone comes to you?
I think that's the great part about finding the why of a company, right? What is that baked mission, that undying thing that entrepreneur is just going to make it through? Because it's hard. You have to assume when you're starting a business that you're going to hit bumpy patches. And what are you going to do when you hit those bumpy patches? Will you stay in, and will you fight, and will you figure out what you're going to do to make it work? Because that's just reality. I've been lucky enough to launch a couple companies. Some weren't successful and some were. And all along the way, it was that sort of internal burning, I have to make this work, that made me lucky enough to be successful. So when you're looking for and thinking about and investing in an entrepreneur, do they have what it takes to make it through the tough times? And that's what's baked into the DNA of some of these impact businesses, right? Like, where did they study? Where did they come from? What's their family about? What are their values, and why are they doing this? And if it feels like they're hopping on to the next trend, like you're sort of, mentioning in a way and relating to, I'm very careful and aware to get outside of those, but also look for companies that can sustain, companies that have a big impact globally, something that can affect local but really has the potential to scale global.
Now, you were an early investor in Lyft, and I've been following, of course, what's going on with Uber, and Lyft is now repositioning themselves as the ethical choice. Do you think they could ever get to number one?
It's a great question. I always thought that there was room for more than one. And I have to tell you, we were early in Lyft, and my friends would laugh at me because they had these giant pink mustaches on the front of the cars back then. And I had no idea that Uber would make all of the mistakes that they've made. I just
Nor did they.
And it's a great example. Lyft has really capitalized on the vacuum of values that Uber set. They stepped over themselves with issues with, gender equality, with all sorts of different, wage discrimination issues. And Lyft really has led the way in a positive impact company and in being sort of good to their drivers. They always had love from the drivers, which was what captured my fascination with them.
I thought so too, and I actually now only use Lyft, and primarily because of those reasons.
Thank
but
you.
I don't know if you saw it today, and probably didn't. But the legislation just passed today that basically makes it is making it a little bit easier for the driverless car model. And so as we're moving into that, and I can't remember what the numbers are in the sales of driverless cars, but I know that the shared driving is also talking about going driverless.
Well,
Do you
Lyft
think
has
that
a
will
big
happen?
partnership with Google.
I absolutely do think that'll happen, and I think you're going to see. We're in the first inning of artificial intelligence and robotics and all of these autonomy, all these sorts of things that are going to come and really disrupt every industry. It's just a reality, and it's a big issue up in Silicon Valley now in terms of jobs. What happens to people? What do we all do? And it really gets to the heart of, this is co-work radio. You have to be very scrappy today to think about what is it that I'm doing with my time? What am I learning? What am I training for? And, I've never been someone who had a constant job where I had one sort of thing that I was going to do for my whole life. And that was normal to me. I always had a lot of projects and a lot of interests. I think you're best suited today learning as much as you can about a lot of different businesses and constantly learning, constantly asking questions. That's how you can be successful in today's workforce.
If you're just tuning into Cowork Radio, we're talking with Michael Smith. He's the principal at Pond Valley, and we, have a national audience as well. But I wanted to focus a little bit on Santa Barbara because, of course, people can think about this in their own communities. I know that you are really invested, and I'm talking emotionally as well, here in Santa Barbara. What is Pond Valley doing here, and what is your vision for Santa Barbara?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, this is a place that, I grew up and went to high school here and have loved, and it's in an interesting place right now. It's beautiful. It's as pretty as ever. The buildings look great. Nature looks great. But we have a lot of challenges. State Street's starting to see a lot of vacancies. There's homeless issues. There's equality issues. We face a lot of the same problems that we do in communities all over the country. And so what is it that we can do to meaningfully move the needle as citizens here of this place? And, I have a limited amount of capital with my family, but what we would love to do is invest it as much locally as possible and see companies coming out of the Impact Hub and be able to, find young entrepreneurs coming out of UCSB, coming out of the TMP program, coming out of Scheinfeld. I love City College because it's conceptual. It's possible that you could be a person here that could go to public school, go to City College, go to the Scheinfeld program, and have a real company and be successful. And we want to invest in those sorts of businesses that are doing positive things, not just anything, but people that are really looking to give back and do good with their work. We would like to fund some of those businesses early on and be early capital. Sometimes the first checks are the hardest to get, and so we want to be a place that people come as they're coming out of schools or even thinking about starting a company in Santa Barbara or moving to Santa Barbara.
Now, a problem we have here, which is across the country and the world, is the decline in brick and mortar retail. What would your recommendation be as to how we can fill those spaces that are now sitting empty and making the towns look a little dead?
It's a fantastic question. It's a question on, I think, a lot of the breakfast tables and coffee shops across the city right now. I see it as a big opportunity. They're empty spaces, but they're really, it's what you program them with, right? So if you look to the past and say, hey, where's the big chain stores of the past, or where will that happen? Why doesn't that happen here? It's not going to happen. They're going away. And so you need to rethink what is real estate, how do we use these as an opportunity, not as a problem. And if you look at it through that lens, how can we reprogram them? How can we say, okay, if it's an 8,000 square foot floor plate, nobody's renting those, but they might rent 2,000 feet in front and do a pop-up shop, and they might run their business out of the back, and somebody might live upstairs, and you might have open spaces and parks and, really change the framework of what State Street is. It seems like a really cool opportunity for change and experimentation and crowdfunding and allow the community to figure out how to own some of these things. And the buildings themselves are beautiful, so why can't we make them dynamic?
I know that Paseo Nuevo has been experimenting with the pop-up shops there, and it seems to be going well. So I think you're right. It's like but you have to change the mindset of a lot of older business owners that have just been running this model for so long. But one of the things that I think is alarming, and I'm sure you do too, is we just can't seem to keep our talent here, right? I mean, they go to school here locally, they get their education here, they come up with great business ideas, but then they look around the country and they say, there's no way I'm going to stay here in Santa Barbara. So
I'm going to object to that because I'm finding we have an enormous amount of talent that's staying here. As I've been looking to book people on the show, I'm generally trying to book people that will have an appeal to across the country, and a lot of them are living within an hour drive of where we're sitting right now, including Michael, who was very successful in L.A., and he came back.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. I'd say that's why we set up the fund. It's possible to do. I think, though, we're seeing more, and I think what Jane's speaking to, there are examples of success, which is great. And you want to point to that to encourage others who might not as likely take that leap. But I think the majority of talent is getting picked up by Silicon Valley, by Los Angeles, by other major metropolitan areas. And if kids felt like they could make a living here, if they could find, here's another challenge, workforce housing is a huge issue here, right? People would love to stay here. They'd love to work here. But even as they get going and become successful, they try to hire employees. They can't make it work. They can't make it pencil. So it's part of the same macro systems issue.
Is Pond Valley going to tackle that? Are you looking at perhaps investing in affordable living for startups?
So less than that, the companies that we invest in, we will help them navigate those problems. And as of now, if the city doesn't get more active in helping from a zoning perspective, if that means putting them in friends' guest houses, helping, where do you put your workers? Whatever it is, we're going to get active, roll up our sleeves.
Well, and we have the new law that's just been passed where people can have extra housing on their properties, which makes it easier for affordable housing.
Right.
That Jerry Brown passed.
Right.
We mentioned something earlier in business news about a lot of companies and talking about the socially conscious model. But this model of buy one, donate one, like Tom Shoes did and the guys with the sock commercial. Is that sustainable for a business model, you think, over time? Or?
I've never liked that model.
Why? Yeah, I'm curious.
I've never liked the model because it feels like a kind of bolt-on impact. Right. I love businesses that have in their DNAs they're solving a problem. They found a for-profit way to solve a big problem, and that's sustainable because you can only give away for so long before you sell out to the next company. And as you're in a big company, they say, well, how much do we really need to donate, and how do we cut corners here or there? If you're solving a problem and you're making money, it can scale. That's when really exciting things can happen.
We're talking with Michael Smith. He's the principal at Pondville. If people want more information, somebody's listening, maybe that young entrepreneur.
Pond Valley.
Pond Valley. Did I say Pondville all of a sudden? Pond Valley. I was looking right at it.
Dr. Seuss book. Yeah.
Where can they find more information about Pond Valley?
Go to pondvalley.com, PONvalley.com.
And are you calling Santa Barbara home again now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. Happy to be back.
And DJing or no?
For fun here and there.
Oh, that's good to know. If you want Michael to DJ.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Once
Thank you
again,
for having me.
That is Michael Smith with Pond Valley, and you are listening to Co-Work Radio here on KZ SB 1290, the News Press radio station, and we will be right back after this.